So the Spire in Halo 3 is one of the game's tallest structures, and getting to the top of the structure in and of itself is an achievement because 1, it's really tall, 2, it's completely outside of the map, and 3, the platform at the top is actually pretty small, so it's hard to land on. But it's actually not that difficult to do a proper vehicle launch to get to the top of it. But I couldn't find a single instance of someone ever doing this without the use of a vehicle. And honestly, I'm not even sure that this is possible because the Spire is so tall, and how would you even land on it properly because there's no edges? So, can I become the first person to ever complete the Spire without using a vehicle? Let's give it a shot! So because I wasn't using a vehicle, I would have to figure out what objects to use in order to pull this off. And there's really only one that would be capable of doing the job: a deployable cover. In Halo 3, you can get insane vertical and horizontal distance by doing a deployable cover launch. Essentially, you're just jumping into the textures of the deployable cover, and the collision from your player model and the deployable cover shoots you out at rapid rates. But deployable cover launches aren't the most consistent thing. They're actually extremely inconsistent. So not only is it hard to pull off a good one, but wielding different weapons actually produces different directions and therefore different results for the launches. But there's also a little bit of a problem with this deployable cover launch. I need to somehow be able to stop in order to land on top of the tower. I would only have a very small window to land on it so that I didn't die from fall damage. And luckily for me, in Halo 3, you can actually use deployable covers as both a launching tool and a mid-air flight adjustment. So I would need to both get the distance, and I would also need something to guide me onto the tower. So when you're flying through the air, depending on the direction you're going and the direction you're facing, you can throw a deployable cover on the opposite side of where you want to go, and it will deflect you into that region. But before I even worry about attempting this, I had to first figure out a way to get out of the map and have 2 deployable covers with me at the same time. In Halo 3, brutes drop deployable covers about 30% of the time. And on the mission The Ark, there are more enemies than any other mission, so I would have plenty of opportunities to pick up this deployable cover, so I completely ignored picking it up at the first part of the mission. I figured it would be easy to find one on the second part of the mission by the Spire. Okay, I need some deployable covers here. And luckily for me, the first chopper I destroyed actually had a brute that dropped a deployable cover. There's one. So now that I had this, I needed to transport my first deployable cover outside the map. But I would need to break out of the map first. And breaking out of the map on the Ark is actually pretty simple, but you have to get a chopper. Seriously. Are you... This has got to be some sort of joke. If you follow this path up the rocks by the wall, you can get to an elastic barrier. Once you hit this elastic barrier, if you hit the boost button, you'll actually break out of it. You can then follow this elastic barrier to where it will take you to the second half of the Spire that you normally can't reach. My goal at this point was to now find an ideal position to set this up in. And I couldn't think of a better place than this ledge that runs along the opposite side facing the Spire. It had no obstructions and a straight shot to the tower. But getting to the Spire is a hike. You have to walk this insanely long path that takes 3 to 5 minutes every single time. If you follow this exact path to the edge of the map, you'll come across a spot that you can jump onto. Then, if you use a grenade jump, you can get onto the higher ramp. You can take this ramp all the way up to the platform that we're going to be using. And just a short 4.5 minute hike later, I was in the spot that I thought would be ideal for this. And literally not 1 second after picking my spot, I ran into my first problem. Now it starts shooting at me. Really? The Scarab was focusing its gun on me way outside of the map. Now, because I was doing this alone, I was having to control 2 separate players at 2 separate times. As long as I could just avoid the Scarab long enough to get a deployable cover and then come back in the map with another player, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. But I knew for a fact that once the second player exited the map and then delivered the deployable cover, the Scarab was going to start shooting at me. But that was a problem for another time. I needed to go into the map, get a second deployable cover, exit the map, and then get up to where I was standing again. And after 14 long minutes, I was finally here with a second deployable cover. Okay, now that we're almost here, I gotta get lined up again. I'm so out of position from the Scarab. So now that I was here, my idea was to line up directly in the middle of the center column of the Spire. My hope was to just hit it directly head on and then hope that I bounce up and land on it. Seems pretty straight to me. But I had one small, ginormous problem. So I had to figure out where to position the second deployable cover that was going to sit on the ground that I was going to pick up after using the first deployable cover to do a launch. I was going to be traveling at really rapid speeds, so I needed to position this somewhere that I was able to pick it up on my flight towards the Spire. And my first idea was having the deployable cover sit in front of where I was launching, that way I was heading that direction anyways. So now that I had my deployable cover on hand and my second one on the ground in position, I just needed to send the second player into the map to kill the Scarab. Doing this would give me an automatic checkpoint. I would need to reset this checkpoint over and over and over again to do this, if it was even possible. And after 40 long minutes, I was finally able to start attempting this. There we go. Did I mess up this checkpoint play or this deployable cover placement? After just a few attempts, it was looking promising, but I had another problem. I was getting the distance needed to get to the tower, but I wasn't actually picking up my deployable cover on the launch there. So in order to remedy this, I needed to revert to the previous checkpoint. In Halo 3, there's a mechanic that if you have all players die 5 times in a row within 3 seconds of spawning in, you'll go back one previous checkpoint. I would need to make the long journey back again to reposition my deployable cover, so I was picking it up during the launch. That's a really unfortunate checkpoint, but it may ultimately be necessary, unfortunately. Oh my. So after reverting my checkpoint, I had to go reset this all up again. And 25 minutes later, I was finally in position and had both players ready. And then this happened. No, you f***ing... The Scarab's gun knocked both me and the deployable cover off the ledge, which would mean I would have to backtrack, pick it up, and come all the way back again, which would be another 5 to 10 minutes. If you remember earlier in the video when I said that I just didn't pick up a deployable cover earlier in the mission when I had the opportunity because there's a lot of them at the end of the mission, well, I didn't want to have to go into the map every single time I needed to reposition this. I was considering just restarting the mission entirely and swallowing the hour and a half I'd already put into this. And then the Scarab killed my second player and dropped the deployable cover off the ledge again. You're such a... So I just restarted this to get a deployable cover because getting out of the map wouldn't be that challenging, but getting the deployable covers proved to be a huge issue. I don't care. I'm getting a deployable cover right off the rip and getting out of the map before I get all those freaking checkpoints and need to kill a Scarab. This is stupid. I'm done resetting this. Bullshit. There's one already. Easy. Here's another DC. Easy money. I'm actually probably further along than I was before now. Only 20 minutes later, I was back into position and finally ready to do this. Okay, I think the lineup is good. You guys know what time it is? Controller time. After about 10 minutes of doing this on mouse and keyboard, I decided that it was time to switch to the controller. So the problem with deployable cover launching is that you need to be crouching at a very slight speed while walking forward. Because the mouse and keyboard has 4 singular inputs for moving backwards, forwards, left, and right, I'm not truly walking forward, I'm tapping forward on the keyboard. Controllers are way more consistent with being able to do deployable cover launches. In fact, they're kind of impossible to do without them unless you get lucky. At this point, I ran into my next problem because of the controller. I was actually going too fast and not picking up the deployable cover on the launch at all. I had to do this with the controller, so my only option at this point was reverting to the previous checkpoint and setting up the deployable cover once more. But I actually had a checkpoint while standing on this, so 10 minutes later, I was ready to do this again. Except this time, I did two things differently. I cleared out all the weapons from the area so it would not interfere with the deployable cover launch. And also, optimizing this checkpoint once more, I'm putting the deployable cover behind me this time because the majority of the time I was not picking it up. Okay, much better. Oh, baby. After 30 minutes of attempting this, I wasn't getting that close. I was hitting the tower, but I was going way too fast and way too high. So something needed to change. I had to switch to something entirely different. So I was going to the right of the Spire pretty consistently with how I was using the deployable cover launch, which was straight at the tower. I figured if I just do the deployable cover launch slightly angled to the left, maybe I can actually hit at the speed that I need to go. At this point, I was getting closer than I'd ever been before, but I still hadn't had one singular makeable attempt in over 3 hours of doing this. And you probably don't know this, but I have been trying to get at least one video ahead for 6 months. These challenges are insanely difficult and time-consuming. And at this point, I didn't know what to do except call on a friend for help. Jesus. Please help me pull this off. What, dude? The let's give it a shot guy is crying. What? So I'll give you a story. A couple of years ago, I was a miserable, angry person. Nothing I did in my life cured that anger that I felt inside. And I didn't even really know if I believed in God at that point. Funnily enough, I asked for a sign in the game Old School RuneScape, and I said, God, if you're real, show me a sign. And not 10 seconds later, someone trades me 4 million gold and says, I hope you have a great day. Ooh. Sorry, guys. At that point, my YouTube channel was dead in the water. I had 38,000 subscribers for 6 straight months. I had only 33,000 views in all of December. I basically was dead on the internet. And dead YouTubers don't come back. But guess what? I had the Lord on my side. And I gave it a shot. And I made long form videos. And here we sit. 50,000 subscribers strong. I will never apologize for loving Jesus Christ. You know what they say? God gives his toughest Halo challenges to his strongest Spartans. Low-key kind of cringe, but I was actually starting to get some good deployable cover launches. I had hope. Oh, we're getting closer. After 3 hours and 30 minutes of doing this, I had to call it. The deployable cover was etched into my retina at this point, and I needed to go stop. This could wait for another day.
I've been recording for 3 hours.
But I decided to leave my game on and try it later that day. I didn't want to have to reset up everything again. That was the last thing that I wanted. But to my surprise, I was getting even closer.
Oh, come on. Come on.
But while I was getting closer, I had already attempted this over 2,000 times. Unless I wanted to do this 10,000 plus times, I needed to figure something else out. So before I ended this session, I wanted to try to reposition myself to see if that would help. I was about 100 feet lower, and I was going to line up with the ramp right in front of it and hopefully bounce up to the top.
Okay guys, I have one final idea to do this. Not sure if it'll work. What I'm going to try to do, I think, is deployable cover from like here, aimed right at this ramp, and try to bounce all the way up. But we'll see. Unfortunately, I had to restart the mission to get this set up in a new position. I'm just going to restart the mission. I'm just going to try one more time, and this will be it.
So I took both of my deployable covers and moved them to the rocky part just outside of the spire. My positioning this time sucked. I wasn't picking up the deployable cover, and every single time I was shooting to the right or shooting to the left and getting sucked in the map. So I tested another spot on a whim.
Okay, that's promising. I'm changing positions immediately.
So I bit the bullet once more and got this set up into my new position.
Here we go. Too much.
Oh, no.
Oh, it was so close.
I was so close to pulling this off. So I changed my strategy entirely.
No cigar.
Instead of trying to use a second deployable cover to navigate in the air, I instead analyzed my close attempt and figured that the best way that I could probably get up the spire at this point was getting inside the center column, bouncing up, and then getting the exact height that I needed to not die from fall damage.
Oh. Me, dude. So difficult. Sucks, dude. Oh, come on.
At this point, I was 4 hours into this, and I still hadn't had any signs of life. I was getting frustrated because I just didn't know if I could even pull this off. And realizing that 4 hours into playing a video game is extra painful.
Do this. Can't do it. This one feels like literal psychological torture, dude. Like if my enemy locked me up and made me do this for the rest of eternity, that would be hell to me. Dude.
This shit. So I gave up, and then I tried this again for an hour the next day, and that also didn't work. So then I tried it one final time the following day. I was going to give this one last shot, and if it didn't work, I was just going to give up entirely. Except this time, my plan was to deployable cover launch from the base of the spire. And this took a lot of testing. I set this up 27 separate times to get the ideal spot. I was at the 6-hour mark, and I was all but ready to give up on this. But I decided to just give it a few more tries. I had a feeling. At this point, I did not realize that I had my mic muted, but here's a recreation of what I said. But before I get to that part, you get to see a slow-mo of this launch. Oh, please live. Oh, please live. Oh, please live. Yes! I did it! I can't believe that I actually did it. And then I don't remember what I said here, but you get the point.